Good morning. Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome, everyone. Good morning. It's a Sunday morning halfway through September. Yay! What happened to September? All right. Well, I want to acknowledge the welcome team again. We did a little welcome to the welcome team last week, but this group is on fire. So, Kamina, Courtney, Denise, welcome team folks, would you wave your hands? Big old, yay!
Yeah.
So this is a crew of folks who have taken it in our team model, they've taken it on themselves to say, okay, what does unity feel like when you walk in the door? What does it feel like? What do we want it to feel like? Who greets you? Who gives you information? How do you get the information? How do you feel comfortably welcomed and not stalked or pounced upon? What does it feel like to get welcomed here? And so this team is spending their time kind of thinking through how they want that to go. So one of the things that they have asked me to do is to, if we have newcomers, if you would raise your hand to make sure that we give you a welcome packet. So if we have anybody new here today, hand raise for a welcome packet. Okay, it's a good practice for us. We'll practice the... So imagine you're new here today. And these lovely people say, welcome to Unity of Fort Collins. We're so glad you're here. This is our lovely spiritual home, our community. There's also the community lunch that happens after the service. So there's a brochure at the back, but that's part of the process of having people feel welcomed, that it's easy also to join the community, not just sit in the pew, that it's easy to make friends here. All right. Welcome to our online participants. And we actually can do the analytics, and we average between 40 and 120 people who view our services online. Isn't that wild? That's wild. And they asked us to look at the analytics and see how long people stay in case you happened on it accidentally or you clicked on it or something. But most people stay 55 minutes, which means you're watching the service. So we have a lot of folks out there that are part of our Unity community online. So welcome. Today, we have a council meeting following the service, and it's sort of our next council meeting following up from our retreat, where we're going to continue exploring our weird church vision. And part of that vision is, what if we're all leaders? What if everybody's a leader? And our spiritual leaders are part of the support team, Sharon and Jim, but the teams get support from the ministers, but we're all part of the team. So this is the vision that we're working on, and we're going to continue to fully explore this. But even though the clipboards are a nuisance, lots of people signed up. So we're gonna, no, we'll ease off on the clipboards, but the clipboard, we had a lot of people say, yeah, sure, I'd be happy to join up. So anyway, that's nice. Thank you for the groups of people who are joining our teams. We have 2 announcements related to the fall cleanup. We're going to pass a clipboard. And is that next? Yeah, the 24th. 24th is the fall cleanup, so we need a few more people to sign up for that. Right there. Thank you, Courtney. Great. And we have the forms that you can fill out to let us know if you'd like a name tag, if you'd like to join a team. So that information is available as well in the bulletins. Thank you. It's in the bulletin, Lil says, not in mine, but it's in yours, so good. All right. Well, let's just take a minute and ground ourselves here for our service. Our unity centers us in light and peace, allowing us to recognize our God within and to radiate that love to the world.
Can you hear me? I don't have to do anything?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Good morning. Good to see everyone. And before I do the reading, I wanted to thank Sharon for picking this particular one from the prophet, because I realized after looking for my own book, which I had not seen in, I will not tell you how many years, I thought to myself, my goodness, this was my first spiritual book. And I hear some yes, because a lot of us had that, and it really brought me back. So thank you for reminding me that it was on my bookshelf. So, all righty. And then the scholar said, "Speak of talking." And he answered, saying, "You talk when you cease to be at peace with your thoughts. And when you can no longer dwell in the solitude of your heart, you live in your lips. And sound is a diversion and a pastime. And in much of your talking and thinking is half murdered. For thought is a kind of space that is a cage of words, and indeed unfold his wings, but cannot fly." There are I'm going to move over here, if I can. Can you still hear me? Okay, I will yell. Because I need this.
They can't hear you
Okay.
online.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I do this? Okay. Sure. Great. Okay, that way I can set this down. I will be much more stable. Okay, here we go. There are those among you who seek the talkative through fear of being alone. The silence of aloneness reveals to their eyes their naked selves, and they would escape. And there are those who talk, and without knowledge of forethoughts reveal in a truth which they themselves do not understand. And there are those who have the truth within them, but they tell it not in words. In the bosom of such as these, the Spirit dwells in rhythmic silence. When you meet your friend on the roadside or in the marketplace, let the Spirit in you move their lips and direct your tongue. Let the voice within your voice speak in the ear of his ear. For his soul will keep the truth of your heart as the taste of the wine is remembered when the color is forgotten and the vessel is no more. Thank you.
Here's a song chosen by Sharon, and I ended up really liking this song. I never thought about it this way. I got no complaints whatsoever. I got no complaints whatsoever. Oh, I got no complaints whatsoever. And a new day is dawning in my soul. I got no complaints whatsoever. I got no complaints whatsoever. I got no complaints whatsoever. And a new day is dawning in my soul. A new day is dawning in my soul. Believe it or not, I'm not lying. I'm not trying to cover up the facts. I've been down, been betrayed, I've been broken open till I gave up the struggle at last. I can see all the ways I've been gifted and and wisdom has brought me to this place. Through the twists and the turns, I finally come to learn to trust in this amazing grace. I got no complaints whatsoever. I got no complaints whatsoever. I got no complaints whatsoever. And a new day is dawning in my soul. And a new day is dawning in my soul. The high road is surprisingly easy. Forgiveness shows up without a fight. Through the ups and the downs, I see beauty all around, 'cause I'd rather be grateful than right. And I get to play with what I'm given and find such unexpected harmonies, weaving the light with the deep dark shadows till the music sets me free. I got no complaints whatsoever. Yeah, I got no complaints whatsoever. I got no complaints whatsoever. And a new day is dawning in my soul. Yeah, a new day is dawning in my soul. Again, I got no complaints whatsoever. I got no complaints whatsoever. I got no complaints whatsoever. And a new day is dawning in my soul. Yeah, a new day is dawning in my soul.
Okay, raise your hand if you didn't complain at all this week. Well, that's why we're going to talk about it today, because I can't raise my hand either. In 2006, Reverend Will Bowen, a Unity minister who had a church in North Kansas City, was teaching a class on prosperity. And he was trying to encourage them to look at the things that they appreciate in their prosperity. And yet with this class, all he was hearing is mumbling about what they didn't have. So he started paying attention around the church. And it's like, well, you know, I didn't like the music last Sunday. And did you hear what Will said? You know, he shouldn't have said that. Complain, complain, complain. So he decided to order purple bracelets that said a complaint-free world on them. And he challenged his congregation to go 21 days without complaining. And I think that happened here also. So it just was like the Kansas City newspaper picked that up, and it spread all over the country. And so Will started this, and to date, 10 million of those bracelets have been given away. So why do we complain? Does anybody know? Why do you complain? Well, the dictionary kind of gives us a clue, and it says we complain to express grief, pain, or major discontent. So our church in Sun City, we were the new ministers there in the fall of 2007, and we ordered 200 challenge bracelets with the idea that, you know, we would challenge the congregation to go 21 days without complaining. So I gave a Sunday talk on complaining, and at the door after the service, this old guy said to me, "Reverend Sharon, you gotta be kidding me. No complaints for 21 days? Well, crap, that's no fun." So the bracelets came, and we handed them out, and people started. And so you'd see people walking around the church snapping these bracelets. So I tried it myself. I'm a pretty positive person. So within the first hour of putting on the bracelet one morning, I caught myself complaining about having to wait at a red traffic light that seemed to be like I'd been parked there for eternity. I was running late for an appointment, and the verbal complaints were just pouring out of my mouth before I could even think about stopping them. So there I was in the car muttering to myself. 1 hour in, and I already had to start over. And so it went for 21 days. None of us made it without complaining. We kept having to go back and start over. So my Wednesday class in the wintertime had 30, 40 people in it during the morning class and about the same in the evening. And so we started checking in with each other. Did anybody make it this week? No, we didn't make it. So we started looking at, why are we complaining? What's going on? And we realized that we complain when we don't even realize we're doing it. It's a bad habit. So, and because instead of looking at the good in situations, we tend to look at the bad. We look at what's wrong. And so just to be clear here, there is a difference from letting someone know a mistake that has been made that they can put right, and refrain from complaining doesn't necessarily mean putting up with bad quality. There's a difference there. There is no ego in telling the waiter that your soup is cold and needs to be reheated. That's a neutral statement. It's just a fact. But statements like, what's the matter with you? Why are you serving me cold soup? Now that's complaining. So we started making a list of things that we were finding were complaints. And we decided that mostly we don't want to take responsibility for the things that didn't work out. We want to blame somebody else. So we complain about what they didn't do. People complain in order to have power over other people. We complain to excuse ourselves for a poor performance in something. So now we kind of thought we understood why we were complaining. And people really wanted to stop, So we agreed that one of the things we needed to do, we needed to go back to what Reverend Bowen wanted to do to start out with. We needed to pay attention. We needed to have an attitude of gratitude. And we realized if we wanted to change our lives, we needed to change our complaints into expressions of appreciation. So many of us started to write down before we went to bed at night 10 things we were grateful for every day. And I'm sure some of you have done that and maybe still do it. And so it moved us from thinking about what was bad during the day to what had been good during the day. So for myself, instead of complaining about what Jim didn't do, I started to be thankful for the little things he did do. So a few months after the class had been working on this, and we were doing other books at that time, but we kind of always were checking in on how we were doing. And by this time, it was like 62 days, not 21. And so we came up with the phrase, be a watcher of your thoughts. Be a watcher of your thoughts. So as Christmas of 2007 approached, one class member said she realized her thoughts were creating expectations about her son coming for the holidays, even though he'd never mentioned coming. And so we realize that it's clear we set up expectations of other people, and we don't even tell them that we have that expectation, and then we're angry when they don't fulfill it. So, along with being a watcher of our thoughts, we added no expectations. So when we gathered in January, folks expressed that expecting nothing for the holidays, didn't expect anybody to do anything for us, that every little thing that happened was a gift. One person said that her neighbor wishing her a Merry Christmas was just meaningful and a gift. A call from a grandson was a gift. And the woman who said she was creating the expectation of a visit from her son, well, he didn't visit, but she had let go of that expectation, but he did send her money to fly to his home for her birthday. So our list was growing. No complaints, practice appreciation. Be a watcher of your thoughts. No expectations. Make everything a surprise. So we realized we weren't perfect in our thoughts, and most likely we never would be. However, we had improved. We were doing better than we used to do because we were consciously aware of what our thoughts were. So there was an elderly man who grew an amazing amount of food in a 5-by-5-foot garden. And for years he had weeds. You gardeners know about weeds, right? And he spent all of his time weeding his garden. And so he made the decision to plant twice as many plants. Twice as many tomato plants, twice as many of everything in the same amount of space. And what he found out, he had no weeds because there was no room. And the vegetables had taken over where the weeds would have grown. So folks, it's the same thing with our minds. It's exactly the same thing. If we plant thoughts of appreciation, kindness, and love, there's no room for complaining thoughts. So one Wednesday, my friend Sue asked if she could read the class something she had found about changing a thought. And so this is what she shared with us. A great example of pointing out an intolerable flaw and not using the negative energy of complaining to do it was on August 28, 1963, when Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and uplifted a nation's consciousness. He did not say, "Look how terrible you have been treating us all these years. I have had it. I will not tolerate it anymore. This abuse of our people, not another day. It's time to confront the racist white people." That's not what he said. No. He spoke eloquently about a vision he had for all people addressing the absolute best in human nature. Eloquent words still bring tears to our eyes when we hear his speech so many years later. Instead of focusing on the obvious problem, he went right to the solution. Instead of complaining and criticizing, he declared, "I have a dream." He took us to the mountaintop and planted a vivid picture about a world without racism. We went right there with him. Same situation presented in two different ways. So during that winter months, our class started a book study using the book My Stroke of Insight by Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. She's a neuroscientist. If you have not read this book, it's great. It's her true story. My Stroke of Insight. She had a stroke by herself at home. She had a bleed in the left hemisphere of her brain, and it was not functioning. And the only part of her was functioning was her right hemisphere. And she tells about not being able to think even at all where the phone was or anybody's numbers, because all that analytical information is in the left hemisphere of her brain. But over here in the right part of her brain, she felt love and peace and joy. And here she's struggling to get to a phone, and she's in this euphoric place. And her book explains what happened to her, and I'd just like to read a little bit for you. She says, after she started to recover and wrote the book, I have gained a clear delineation of the two very distinct characters cohabiting in my head. The two halves of my brain don't just perceive and think in different ways as a neurological level, but they demonstrate very different values based upon the types of information they perceive, and thus exhibit very different personalities. My stroke of insight is that at the core of my right hemisphere consciousness is a character that is directly connected to my feeling of deep inner peace. It is completely committed to the expression of peace, love, joy, and compassion in the world. The most fundamental traits of my right hemisphere personality are deep inner peace and loving compassion. I believe the more time we spend running our inner peace, compassion circuits, then the more peace, the more compassion we will have on the planet. As a result, the clearer we are about which side of our brain is processing what types of information, the more choice we have in how we think, feel, and behave, not just as individuals, but as collaborating members of the human family. This book had a powerful effect, not only on me, but on my class, because we were trying to work on changing our thoughts, right? So what we did was we created a physical thing that we were doing. We were practicing. If we were ready to complain, if we were thinking negative thoughts, and you know when you're going to do it, you feel that tenseness in your body, we would visually, within ourselves, think, okay, that's lefty over here. I'm just going to move that thought over here and try to analyze why I've got this complaint going up here. I'm going to move over here to my peaceful side. And I'm telling you, folks, it works. It works. And I'm going to give you an example of how it works. So our first Easter at Unity Spiritual Center, we had many congregants from traditional backgrounds who wanted us to do a Good Friday service, but with a unity message. So we spent hours and many drafts creating a service that would create the metaphysical interpretation of both communion and the Good Friday story. Most of the writing, I did it home on my computer there so I wouldn't be disturbed, and then I would send it down to my computer at the church. So in the days before the service, we decided to make a change to the script for communion. I did it and sent it to the church. It was on my computer there. Well, Jim had been busy all week because we had this place outside of a garden that we had just created that eventually we were going to put a labyrinth in, but we wanted to do their very first early Easter service out there. So he had been down there with some of the men preparing this place. And of course, like any good wife, I said to him, you need to get home by 3 o'clock to shower and change. Well, I left for the church at 4 and passed him on the road, and he needed to be back by 6. So he came flying into the church about 10 minutes to 6, and he said, you didn't give me a copy of the script. I had given him a copy. That's my side of the story. The service was ready to start over in the other building, and our administrative assistant says, I'll print another copy, and she went over to my computer. You go on over to the sanctuary. Well, there was more than one version of the script on my computer. The service started. The music was beautiful. And when it came time for communion, both of us had a book with a script in our hand. We started reading our parts, and they didn't fit together. And I realized something was really wrong here. So I kind of gave Jim a high side, and I took over from my memory of what we had written. So when the service was over, I was upset. And I went out into the church garden, and as people left the sanctuary, several of them came up to me and told me how very meaningful the service was to them, because it had been part of their tradition, but now they were hearing it from a unity perspective. Well, I didn't believe them. They knew we'd screwed up. And they were just trying to make me feel better. I mean, I knew that, right? I mean, I didn't hear them because I was embarrassed. My ego was just hanging out there in embarrassment. The service wasn't perfect. Well, I had bought Jim a new suit. I buy his clothes. I take care of my guy girls. And I needed to go and pick it up because they had done the alterations on it. So I'm angry, and I'm frustrated, and I'm stressed, and I'm embarrassed. And I get the suit, and I leave, and I'm on my way home, and it's like half hour or so. And I needed to listen to my thoughts. And I did. So driving home, I asked myself, what am I going to make of this? Am I going to pick this experience apart and complain and ruin the whole weekend? Or am I going to move from over here to over here? I don't want to start an argument when I get home. I don't want to complain when I get home. I'm upset enough. I don't want that energy. So was I going to talk about the screw up, of which for sure was his fault? Or was I going to talk about how good the rest of the service was and how people really did seem to enjoy it? Was I going to focus on the positive comments that people had shared with us? I had a choice. Complain or appreciate. So I moved to my right side of the brain, and I started to feel peace. And I was able to laugh about our mix-up together. And we made the decision that from now on, when we created services, special services, we would mark our drafts, draft 1, draft 2, final draft, so that we would know if we got into this situation again. So there's another story about a couple, and I think it's kind of funny, so I wanted to share it with you. This man says, for the past 20 years, my wife has been complaining about not putting the cap back on the toothpaste. So last anniversary, I decided to change my bad habit to make my wife happy. For a week, I was diligent, always capping the toothpaste. And I was expecting my wife to thank me, but she never did. Finally, last night, she turned and looked at me and said, you ready for this? Why have you stopped brushing your teeth? Oh, these relationships we're in, huh? So in closing, I invite you to be a watcher of your thoughts. Try not to complain. Practice appreciation. Have no expectations of everyone. Make everything a surprise. Make it a gift. And practice with awareness of your thoughts, moving that negative thought, that analytical thought, over to your left hemisphere, where you find peace and joy. It works. Not always, but it works.
Definitely.
Our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is everywhere. And every thought's indeed a prayer.
Like the wind blows across an open meadow and bends the seeding tassels of grass, I invite you to take a moment to connect with the movement of your breath. As you inhale, allow your breath to open and feel it move deeper and deeper within your body. As you inhale deeper with each breath, imagine you are also breathing in a beautiful, radiant light. Know this comforting light holds useful information that you will soon realize, along with the essence of compassion. Let compassion flow through you. Compassion for all that you're currently feeling. Compassion for all that you've experienced in the past. This caring and comforting light is relaxing to your emotions. As you gently and deeply breathe in light and compassion, you begin to feel a sense of tolerance and a deep relaxation. All is well. Be still. All is well. You are simply gaining greater clarity as this light-filled information guides you to a practice of self-care. You are able to remember multiple ways to create and invite self-love. You remember what it's like to nurture and love yourself, just as you would any loyal and trusted friend. You feel safe in this space that allows old limiting thoughts or beliefs to float away from your essence. They float away and rise to the distance. Take a moment to sense a growing newfound freedom that can change your reality for the better. Your heart and mind wisdom will always instinctively know how to balance and remain fully accessible to you. You truly are a beautiful blend of your higher and true self and the person you feel yourself to be. So I invite you into the silence as you feel your mind and your heart in harmony with all that is. It is an appreciation to the silent spirit within that at any time and in any place we can be still and renewed and know that we are loved. And so it is. Amen.
May the blessings of God rest upon me. May God's peace abide in me. May God's presence illuminate our heart now and forevermore. May the blessings of God rest upon you. May God's peace abide in you. May God's presence illuminate your heart now and forevermore. May the blessings of God rest upon us. May God's peace abide in us. May God's presence illuminate our heart now and forevermore. Now and forevermore.
I'm not here to tell you the true story. So let's have our ushers come forward, and I invite you to take within your hands your offering, and let's bless it together. The words are on the screen. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God.
One, two, 1, 2. Am I strong enough to bear the burdens that sometimes comes living this thing called life? Am I wise enough to make the right decisions when I'm standing in the fork of the road? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone, and there's nothing I have to do on my own, 'cause I am the place where God lives, moves and dreams and has his being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and dreams and has his being. I am the place where God shows up. Will I have enough to do the things I need to do to take care of myself? Will I have the health of mind and body to live a life of grace and holiness? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone, and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and dreams and has his being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and dreams and has his being. I am the place where God shows up. Sing after me. I am the place. You are the place. We are the place where God shows up. I am the place. You are the place. Yeah, we are the place where God shows up. Come one more time. Yeah. I am the place. And you are the place. Yeah, we are the place where God shows up. One more. I am the place. And you are the place. Yeah, we are the place where God shows up. I love it when you guys get into it.
Well, thank you, Elle and Al. And now we have a place where little ones show up, the little lights. Let's have them come in.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, yeah, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Here at the corner of Lions and Vine, I'm gonna let it shine. Here at the corner of Lions and Vine, I'm gonna let it shine. Here at the corner of Lions and Vine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. What's the name of the journal that you've got? Perfect for today, yes.
I think this is, no, does it work?
Go ahead.
Yep. It does? It works.
Okay.
That's like good, you know.
That's something, yeah.
Okay, does that do it? Does that do it? Good. Thank you for being here. Yes. Yes. Just before we close our service, I want to just say, just 1 minute. We have some 30 individuals that signed up for our various teams. Would you believe that? Would you believe that?
Yeah.
This is the place where God shows up in so many ways. And I'd like to invite the rest of you. We need about 10 more. We have a technology team. Would you like to learn how to run all that equipment back there? Maybe online you can help us by watching our live streaming and making suggestions on that. We've got a facilities team that takes care of the gardens. We can do more in planting things. We've got a finance team. If you've got some talents in the area of finance, so we'd love to have a couple more people sign that. So in your bulletin, there's a sheet of paper listing these teams. And by the way, order yourself a new badge too. So thank you sincerely for all that you do to make this place what it is. So let's all stand and circle up. We have the prayer protection, the peace song to close our service. So the prayer protection together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Oh, great. Yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins with me. Yes, there is peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. With God as our creator, family all are we. As we walk with each other in perfect harmony. Yes, peace begins with me. Yes, this is the moment now. With every step I take, yes, this is my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins with me. Woo, that felt good.